But yeah, if I decide to run for office the next few years, Eric's got plenty of dirt on me. Oh man, he owns me.
You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong.
Welcome to episode 160 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm Dave Roberts, and this is the crossover extravaganza. Jessica ran her mouth too much and has laryngitis. So, we got a serious upgrade with Ken Pullin. He is the former state rep from District 131, which covers Pike, Upson, and Lamar counties down in Griffin. He sponsored the anti-red flag legislation, co-sponsored constitutional carry, and awarded one of the top conservative legislators by American Conservative Union in 2019. Ken, thank you for coming on with us.
Hey, good morning. I'm glad I could be here. Big shoes to fill.
I don't know if her feet are that big.
No, but thank you guys for having me on this morning. I'm looking forward to it, talking about crossover.
Well, thank you for filling it. Look, it was very short notice that we got Ken on. Jessica's voice gave out, and Ken came on with like 12 hours notice. So, we're going to go ahead and lead off with the fact that these are our opinions and not necessarily those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. That it's such an awkward disclosure that Jessica wrote for me to read, because my opinions absolutely represent all on man, I'm bad today. Represent Dr. Cool because, well, I own Dr. Cool, so so. Yeah, if you don't like what I say so much that you don't want to have me come fix your air conditioner, I'll be fine. So it was crossover day last week. In fact, crossover day was the day that we dropped the show. We did have bad bills that didn't pass. HB 86 by Ron Stevens, casino legislation.
Yeah, and if you look, Dave, if you look at casino legislation, I like to follow who's given money to legislators. I think the casino industry has been donating to elected representatives for quite a few years now in the Georgia House and over in the Georgia Senate, and it feels like every year Representative Stevens tries to push through casino legislation. He also tried to push through horse racing in Georgia this year also, and both of those bills did not make it to crossover.
You know, I don't have a problem with gambling. I don't want a casino in my hometown, but I don't have a problem with gambling. It's the fact that government will have its fingers all in it, and they want it to fund hope.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem with it is I think if you look over the last year when the federal government was giving people stimulus checks, you saw that the Georgia Lottery Commission brought in more money in 2020 than it ever has. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but what I don't want is the government to be involved, like you said, and then tie casino legislation to the Hope Scholarship. We've seen what unlimited amounts of money are doing to college cost over the past 10 years. They're skyrocketing. Adding more casino legislation dollars or dollars that come in through casino gambling to the Hope, to me, is only going to make costs continue to skyrocket across the state of Georgia.
Well, of course. If you want to see something get expensive, make it free.
Exactly.
And, you know, I don't want to sound like, you know, obviously I lean hard a libertarian, but the lottery was more fair when the mob ran it. And the lottery profits off of people who cash their paychecks at gas stations and buy scratch-offs.
Yes, that's the biggest problem with the lottery today. Is it's a big tax on the poor people of the state of Georgia, and that's why I've always had a problem with it.
Well, yeah, it taxes poor people to send middle class, upper middle class kids to college.
Yes, exactly.
So and hope is always broke.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you noticed, but there was a bill on crossover passed. I know we'll talk about vehicle bills later, but it was passed by Chairman Alan Powell, which I think is going to be a vehicle bill for some bad piece of legislation later on. But it actually added another person to the Hope Commission, basically, that oversees it. If you also look in Georgia, that the people that run the Hope program are some of the highest paid employees in the state of Georgia. I think the top guy makes roughly $980,000 running the Hope plan, investment plan.
Well, you know people under the Gold Dome. How do I get that job?
Yes, it would be a good job if you could get one. It really was. And that was one of the things under Gold Dome I was always so shocked about. When I ran for office, 90% of my campaign contributions came from individual people in my district. Once you get to the Gold Dome, if you look, 99% of campaign contributions start coming from lobbyists that push legislation just like casinos, horse racing, all the vices that we talk about in the state of Georgia. Most of the campaign money is coming in from PACs and lobbyists that are pushing measures just like this instead of just hardworking, Georgians. We kind of lose touch because of money. And you know how money drives everything at the Georgia Dome.
So you get in office by lending your campaign money and asking your neighbors for money, but once you get up there, it flows in from, Harrah's.
Yes, I did. I actually spent a little bit of time last year looking into campaign contributions. I don't think Speaker Ralston had less than 1% from individuals in the state of Georgia. Chairman Powell, who introduces a lot of legislation like this, again, upwards of 98, 99% of money coming in was from corporate lobbyists or from from corporates, companies throughout really the United States, and from lobbyist groups. So that's how you get insulated at the Capitol and you push legislation like this, because you've got to pay the people back that are actually paying your freight.
Well, it's also why it's incredibly difficult to unseat someone in office.
Yes, it's almost impossible. I ran against a chairman of in the Georgia House the first time I ran, and I would wake up every morning and start looking at campaign contributions, and every day there was $2,000 coming in from another legislator at the Capitol or $2,000 coming in from a PAC, and that truly is why it's so hard to beat incumbents at the Capitol. It's also a reason I'm a big fan, and I've got a 16-year-old son that completely disagrees with me on this, but I'm a big fan of term limits. I think we need people to serve 8 to 10 years and take a break and get new people in. And I think if you look over the last couple of years in the Georgia House, some of the best ideas and bills have come from new legislators coming in with a different mindset.
3 terms. 3 terms is where in the Georgia House, 3 terms, and you start to become a cog in the machine.
I totally agree with you. 3 terms is plenty.
That, and we looked at it, and when I worked on Brian Dobbs' campaign, which that worked out so well because he didn't knock on a single door, but we decided that 3 terms was where you stop being who you are and start being a piece of the machine.
Yeah, and it's so easy to become a piece of the machine or part of the machine in Atlanta. I remember my first year, I was, as soon as you get up there, the lobbyists take you to dinner every night. So you're eating, nice thick fillets for dinner. They shower dinners on you, lunches. So you're surrounded by lobbyists. So it's so hard not to become part of that machine because of who you're around every day. I always encourage people in my district. I encourage everybody in the state of Georgia to go to the Capitol, meet your lawmakers, sit with them, talk to them, and ask questions. That's the only way that I think citizens can truly have a big impact on legislators, is continuing to be involved in their lives after they're elected.
Yeah, show up.
Yes, definitely.
Of course, you can't go into the Capitol right now.
Yeah, which is a shame. I was very disappointed that Governor Kemp put a fence around the Georgia Capitol. I thought that was overkill. I think it cost $5 or $6 million. It's a shame that our beautiful state capitol has a fence around it. And also Liberty Plaza, which is straight across the street, has a fence around it too. So we have a plaza named Liberty that has a fence around it that you cannot get into. I know. You cannot make this up.
Because of COVID.
Yes, because of COVID.
Well, we have good bills that did pass. We have another condition, the low THC CBD oil registry, ulcerative colitis, if I can pronounce it, HB 117 by Mike Walensky, which is not fair to even try to get me to pronounce that name.
Yes, Representative Walensky he's a Democrat at the Georgia House. Really good guy. He works across the aisle with both parties, and very good thing that he got this passed. The low THC, we're about to issue licenses across the state of Georgia to companies to start producing it in state. I know that's been a long process and one that Representative Gravely has worked really hard on over the last couple of years. So this just further adds to the list of diseases people can use the low THC oil on.
Because nobody is more qualified to decide what medication is appropriate than lawmakers.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. And that's one of the things that I always struggle with is I think one of the things that we've done from a healthcare perspective is the more government meddles in healthcare, the worse it gets. And we're in this point now where Republicans in my own party continue to tinker with healthcare. And what we should be doing is letting the free market take over healthcare. But we continue to go down the path of more and more regulation on healthcare, and it just does not turn out well at the end.
Well, the process has really been beleaguered, and I know Micah Gravely. He's a friend of mine, and I know he's frustrated by it that this law passed, and the idea of a commission was in the law, and nothing has been done. You can't blame it on COVID. This was long before COVID.
Yeah, this was a year before COVID, at least, that the structure of how we would do this in Georgia got set up. And then, one of the bad things about the bill is they limit it to the number of groups that can participate. I think we're giving out 4 what they call large licenses and 2 small. So we're basically blocked out an entire, very anti-free market bill. You have to apply to the state, pay a large sum of money, and then get picked. So again, this is, who has been lobbying the hardest to that commission to get picked for the state of Georgia. I think you'll see lawsuits against this, and I think you'll see a lot more licenses open up, and the bill and this whole process become a lot more free market over the next few years. Setting numbers never works well. I tried to repeal the hotel motel tax. I don't like anything where we just set random numbers on charges, right? So $5 for a hotel just doesn't make sense when we do stuff like that from a governmental standpoint.
Well, not much in government makes sense.
No, and actually they added on to that at crossover day this year. So a bill was passed to incorporate the Airbnbs and VRBOs of the world, where they have to also start paying the $5 hotel motel tax. So don't let your Republicans tell you they are not raising taxes on you when we're passing bills to put additional charges on Airbnbs.
Yeah, you're welcome to rent out a room in your home, but
yes, you got to pay the government.
So we have the Patient Representation Act, HB 290 from Ed Setzler. dealing with access for individuals, long-term care facilities, hospitals, and nursing homes.
Yes, this was a very good piece of legislation by Chairman Setzler, and it actually really touches close to home. My wife's grandmother has been in a nursing home, and it has been over a year now since we were able to go into the nursing home and visit with my wife's grandmother. Every Saturday, we have 20 minutes that we can go up to the window and look in the window and say hey to her grandmother. So this bill will allow people now to start being able to have contact again with people in nursing homes. I've heard some horror stories over the last year of people dying in nursing homes, and a lot of it was just being alone. People have suffered of not being able to talk to their family loved ones over the past year. So this is a great piece of legislation. Hopefully it can get through the Senate and then onto the governor's desk for him to sign this year.
Well, so basically you have a grandma zoo. Mm-hmm. You can go up to the window. The isolation, first of all, isolation has been a problem with older people for years. Their families don't come visit them. They sit in these facilities and waste away. And now we're taking the families that do want to visit grandma and
yes, this weekend is the first weekend where they're actually allowing physical touch, but you have to put on this scientist-looking suit, where you're in a lab and you have to put your arms in basically plastic, and you'll be able to hug the people in the nursing home my grandmother-in-law was at. You'll be able to put your arms through this plastic wrap and then hug the person on the inside. There's a huge problem with isolation, and we've seen it. We've seen it with children not being in school this year, all the way up to the elderly being in nursing homes. Isolation is not good, no matter who you are.
No, and look, I have a big soft spot in my heart for these folks that look, being in the hospital sucks. And the highlight of your day in the hospital mm-hmm. is getting a visitor. And now think people to think about that being their life, that you are living in a hospital. The people you see are nurses, and your only visitations through a window or through some John Travolta bubble boy sort of get up, that you can't hug your grandkids, you can't hug your kids. I don't know, man. The world's upside down.
It is definitely upside down. So, yeah, this was very much needed. And I know that the Chamber of Commerce, the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, lobbied really hard against this bill. I'm not sure what their reasoning was for that, but anytime the Georgia Chamber lobbies against a bill, you probably need to pass that bill. The Georgia Chamber is not much for freedom and liberty in the state of Georgia.
No, they're not. No, you're absolutely right. If the Georgia Chamber is against something, man, you need to really look at that bill. They're against constitutional carry. They're against a ton of anything that's liberty-minded. The Georgia Chamber is against. And I don't understand it. I don't understand what Georgia Chamber of Commerce should be focused solely on making money for its members.
I agree. Period. Local chambers, we've got some great local chambers around the state. I represented 3 counties, and the local chambers were wonderful, but it is a complete difference when you get to the state Georgia Chamber of Commerce that represents the entire state. They are a very anti-liberty, anti-freedom type organization, and it is truly a shame.
Yeah, and look, I read our local chamber here for filth when one of the big donors wanted the crime. What was it? One of the crime bills last year, but the hate crimes bill, and it was the local hospital. it was AT&T that were lobbying for this, and I'm on the governmental affairs committee, and I read them for absolute filth. I said, how does this make money for Paulding County? How does this bring business to Paulding County? Why are we involved in this legislation at all? And luckily for us, all of our reps voted against it. Micah Gravely, Martin Mumtahan, and Joseph Gullett all voted against it. It passed, but the chamber had no business getting involved in it. And the Georgia chamber...
No, that had nothing to do with business.
Right. And the Georgia chamber has no damn business getting involved in whether a family can go to visit the grandma.
Totally agree with you, Dave.
Not that they give a damn what I say.
Me either. Not now.
So we have HB 479 by Burt Reeves to repeal and replace the citizens arrest statute in Georgia. This is obviously going back to the incident in Savannah.
Yeah, you're right. This bill came about as from the death of Ahmaud Arbery last year down in Savannah. And there was another bill, I know we're going to talk about this one, but there was another bill basically related to that where we created a new commission to oversee district attorneys in the state. And again, that bill has a lot to do with the Ahmaud Arbery case.
Well, in the Ahmaud Arbery case, laws were already broken. You already can't chase somebody down with a shotgun and kill them. And we covered on the show a good bit of that with, look, Ahmaud Arbery was not just jogging. It still does not give you the right to chase him down with a shotgun and kill him.
100% agree.
So
yeah. So, and it sounds like I was listening to Representative Burt Reeves discuss this case, and he said, in his mind, the citizens arrest statute came about in Georgia back in the late 1800s, and it was came about as a result of slavery. And his justification on doing away with citizens arrest was this is something that came about during the era of slavery, and it's no longer needed in the state of Georgia. So basically what they've done is got rid of the arrest, and they're calling it detention now. And part of that law that they passed says, if you're coming out of a Walmart, you can be detained, or Target can detain you if they suspect you of something. I don't know about you, Dave, but no one's going to detain me walking out of Target or CVS or one of the local stores until police officers can get there. So I have a problem with that, and I also have a problem with private detectives being able to detain. Those are not police officers. So while there may be some good stuff in this bill, there's definitely some stuff in this bill that I find very questionable.
Yeah, good friggin' luck. I know it sounds like a lot of bravado. I mean, I'm 6'1", and carry a gun every day. If my pants are on, a gun's on. Like, good luck. Good luck detaining me. I don't stop at Home Depot when the alarm goes off. As you're walking out of the door and the cashier didn't deactivate the thing, I don't turn around.
Yep. No,
but I am an asshole. So there's something to that. But I don't like any piece of legislation that creates a separate class of citizen. So if I'm a shopkeeper, I have the right to arrest you. But if I see you climbing out of my neighbor's window, I don't.
And that's what this did away with. So you can no longer do that second case, which you just said. If you see someone climbing out of your neighbor's window, you cannot step in and detain that person after this bill goes into law.
And look, whenever Connie and I leave town, I text my neighbors. And I say, look, we're going to be out of town. If there's anybody in the house that's not me, please treat my home as if it were your own. And it's my feeble layman's attempt to give them legal cover that if you see somebody in my house, stop them.
Yes, definitely.
It's a
Now, this bill did pass. Looking ahead, this bill did pass. I think it was 179 to 0. It was one of them that went through with nobody voting no on it. So it'll be headed over to the Senate to see what they can do with it. I would imagine this is going to fly through the Senate also and make it to the governor's desk fairly soon.
It's a solution looking for a problem. And look, the Ahmaud Arbery case was already illegal.
Yes, correct.
They weren't acting within their rights when they did what they did. It was already illegal to do that. So I'm struggling to find a situation that this solves, other than they want to. I don't even know what this does for them politically.
Yeah, I don't think it does anything politically because it was such a bipartisan bill. This is not what I would classify as a mailer bill. It's not going to be something you put on a mailer and send out against the other side in 2022. So, I mean, obviously obviously Representative Reeves thought this was something that needed to be done in Georgia. But you're right. I mean, I think this was looking for a problem that's not out there.
Yeah, I 43, almost 44 years on this planet, I've never tried to issue a citizen's arrest.
Same here.
So I'm halfway to the end, and I haven't had a need for it. But you and I were talking before the show about it a little bit. Police officers and shopkeepers should have no additional rights that we don't have. And if you see a forcible felony, if you walk out of the bar and you see some chick about to be raped, you should have the right to absolutely detain that guy.
Yes, and there was
stop what's happening.
There was a case in Georgia last week. I don't know if you saw this, where someone detained a person coming out of Chick-fil-A. And I'm not sure that would be legal in the future, what that gentleman did over the last week.
So they broke a law after eating Jesus' chicken?
Yes, I'll have to find the article. But yeah, there was a Good Samaritan that detained a person last week breaking the law. And so we'll see. We'll see how this comes out, if there's changes made in the Senate.
I hope so. I hope it gets killed by the pitcher. Oh, I'm sorry. The lieutenant governor. Yeah, the pitcher in chief.
Yes, it could. We'll have to see. I caught that pitcher reference a little late, but I heard that story by the lieutenant governor about 50 times while I was in Atlanta. So I can almost repeat it verbatim.
I mean, I know he can throw a curveball, but can he govern? But no, this is. Why does garbage legislation pass unanimously?
That was the toughest thing I struggled with for 2 years at the Capitol. Is so many good bills die, and so many bad bills skate through. And if you're not in that, so much of it determines whether or not it's on the speaker's agenda or not. And it also depends on who introduces it. So I remember we introduced a bill where each division or each department in Georgia, we'd vote on separately, the budget separately, which is a great idea in my opinion. Department of Ag would be voted on separately and whatnot. That bill has no chance of passing. So today when they vote on a budget, they have to vote on a $27 billion budget. And if there's certain things you like in there, certain things you don't like in there, you have to vote no on everything. And that's why, budgets continue to rise. And that's why we have some pork in the budgets, because we don't vote on them separately. And that's a tough thing up there. There's just no rhyme or reason sometimes for why something passes, and then other things don't have a shot.
Well, we talked about that last week on the show. Is the budget has to be voted yes or no. There's no line item to it.
Yes, I voted no on a budget in 2020, and it had teacher raises in it. I wasn't voting against teacher raises. I was voting against I was voting because they were taking away funding from courts and people, to defend people. And I'm just going blank on that. But I was voting on a certain thing that says we should not take money away from this group of people, public defenders. So we're taking money away from public defenders and giving teachers a raise. So I wasn't voting against the raises. I was voting against taking funding away. But since it's not broken out, it's just a yes or no vote.
But that's the damn campaign mailer.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
$2,000 raises.
Ken Pullin hates
exactly.
teachers. Like, you're like, no, I don't. I sleep next to one
yes,
every night.
My wife wanted me to vote yes on it. But that is the struggle, is you've had to vote on a $27 billion budget when you could easily break it down into 46 bills. I think there's 46 or 47 departments, and vote department by department. You could also have debate on it at that point on the House floor, and you could actually amend the budget on the House floor if you broke it out. It would be so much more of a open process if you did that. But obviously the leadership in charge does not want an open process when it comes to the budget.
Well, the leadership in charge. Huh?
That was a nice way of saying it.
The guy that doesn't want child molesters to go have their day in court and walk free.
Yes,
that guy. That leadership. Yeah, I tell you what, if I do decide to run for state house at one point, Ralston will not be my fan.
Yeah, we were never friends. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that son of a bitch. So moving on, we have HB 236 by Yasmin Neal, which allows people, after having a temporary protective order issued by a judge, to request security checks by law enforcement. And Neal is a defund the police person.
Yes, this is what's, again, shocking, that the speaker and the Republican majority would let a defund the police Democrat pass a bill that is going to have really negative implications against people of Georgia. So if these TPA issued, or if the TPO is issued by a judge, then that person that requested that can then start requesting security checks by law enforcement. This is one of the reasons I introduced the anti-red flag legislation last year, or the year before last, because we're so divided as a country now, where your neighbor on either side of you can go in and get a TPO issued by a judge, and then all of a sudden you've got law enforcement showing up your door doing a security check. So this was a really, really bad bill to pass by a Democrat in the Georgia House. I was shocked that this legislation got through. What I am confident in is the Senate will kill this. It'll never get a hearing on the Senate side of the House. So it sounds like there was some favor that was being met by letting this bill pass through. Your guess is as good as mine on this one, Dave. I don't know why this legislation snuck through.
And look, I am a huge supporter of, well, first of all, out here it's called Shepherd's Rest. It's a battered women's shelter. Any man who raises his hand against a woman, it just isn't a man.
Yep.
The reason I support Shepherd's Rest is it's illegal for me to go and like beat the snot out of these people. It's so my opposition to this bill is not pro wife beater. But TPOs are also used in divorces. And they're used as a tool.
Yes, they are used as a tool.
And it's a shame. Look, divorce is ugly anyway. And I don't think you've had one. I've had one. Mine was rather easy. We were young and had nothing, so it was like nothing.
Easy to split, nothing.
Yeah, nothing divided by 2, still nothing. Okay. And honestly, my ex-wife and I have a really good relationship. We're fine with each other, but I see, friends of mine that are going through divorces, and they will use TPOs as a tool to get the kids or whatever else. Man, I don't really like law enforcement being used for anything besides protecting people's rights. And one of your rights is against being wronged, but this really turns law enforcement into a tool that
Yes.
I don't want to see. And the fact that it's being pushed by somebody who's an anti or defund the police person is comical.
It is, and we put our police officers in too much in situations that are harmful to them anyway, right? We put our police officers in very dangerous situations. If this bill passes, those police officers are going to now be walking up to somebody's house doing security checks. Do you really want to be walking up to someone's house doing a security check for someone that potentially could be going through a divorce and having a TPO used against them? That's going to be a very dangerous situation for our local sheriffs and our local city police departments.
Right. They're already stretched thin.
Yes, they are. This is the last thing they need to be doing in this regard.
And we're already enforcing stupid laws. I'm a Republican, but I lean hard libertarian. We're already enforcing laws that don't need to be on the books. But now we're going to have a phone call to a police department to go walk in and go, well, are you beating anybody now?
Yes.
Yeah. Again, this is one of those things where a solution looking for a problem where, what are you going to find in the security check? Well, we have a House approve a measure to repeal first-time waiver for hands-free law.
Yeah. So, and before, if it was your first, if you got a ticket for, violating the hands-free law, you could then take that ticket to the courthouse and prove that you had bought a hands-free device since, and that ticket would be dropped. So I think this came from Representative Carson. Now you no longer get that freebie to the Georgia hands-free law.
Doesn't this just demonstrate that it's about money?
100%. And, I think Representative Carson will say that the hands-free law was cut down on a number of deaths in Georgia over the last few years. I'm not sure that's the case. I don't know about you, Dave, but every time I go down the highway, I see more people holding their phone or having it in their laps than I ever have. So I'm not sure people are thinking about this hands-free law when they're driving down the road, nor will they be thinking about this new change that just passed.
Well, first of all, Carson's full of crap. If he wants to use 2020 as an example of why traffic deaths are down, people weren't driving.
Exactly.
They're staying home. And I've said on the show before, I was talking to a fire chief for Cobb County. I think his house is based in Smyrna. And I asked him about fatalities. He says, well, we don't have a lot of fatalities. The traffic's too bad to go fast enough. So his data is useless because it's it's absolutely useless. And I would argue, and I'm a fan of Top Gear, which is a British car show. And they made the point years ago that it's much more dangerous for you to have the phone in your lap looking down at it versus having it up. And my new truck has a computer system in it, which is frustrating to me because I'm old and it's a computer. It actually has to boot up after I try to start it. But me trying to change the radio station is more distracting to me than trying to read a text.
Yes, or eating a cheeseburger from Burger King. Yes, which I do frequently. There's a lot of distracting things that occur in your car besides, yeah, holding your phone. But yeah, this was so if you get caught this time, you need to go pay your $50. They were also trying to pass a bill where you had to wear a seatbelt in the back of your car. Luckily, that didn't make it through. But for some reason, it's like you said, a lot of this is just about the revenue coming in. How many different ways can we pull somebody over and write them a ticket and pull more revenue out of the system?
Well, and of course, one of the problems I have with this is it exempts law enforcement. So driving a police car and texting is somehow less dangerous than driving my pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was garbage legislation to begin with, but oddly enough, they didn't ask me.
You didn't get a vote?
Yeah. I would have to get elected, and the 160 hours of me on this show probably makes me ineligible to run for office. Because I guarantee that some of what I've said here would make it on would make it onto a mailer.
Yeah, probably on a public billboard somewhere.
Dave says public schools shouldn't exist.
Yes, same here. Ken voted against teacher raises. Yes, so neither one of us have any chance to run for public office again.
So we have Philip Singleton, the only bill to fail in the Georgia House of Representatives on crossover day. This is the simplest bill that I think I've ever read.
Yes.
And
no, you're right, Dave.
It
took one word out of a bill. That's all it did.
Yeah, and it flew out of committee unanimously, bipartisanly. Flew out of committee.
Yeah, so this bill just said satellite broadband was now classified as broadband. So before, satellite was not broadband according to Georgia law. So all Representative Philip Singleton tried to do is say, make satellite part of broadband services. This was just an error in the code. Like you said, it sailed through committee. I've talked to Philip. He's one of my good friends. He said it sailed through. They had caucus discussions about this, and then it made itself through the Rules Committee, which is kind of the final, really tough impediment to get through until it gets a House vote. So it sailed through, had multiple co-sponsors. It was bipartisan legislation. And then it gets to the floor, I guess, probably 9 o'clock on crossover night. Philip's presenting this bill. And where a lot of times a freshman legislator, this was his first, Philip's not a freshman now, but a lot of times the first bill you get on the floor, there'll be representatives stand up and make funny comments or ask funny questions, kind of haze you on the House floor. Very innocent, but, people get a good laugh out of it. But when Philip was presenting this, he had Republicans start asking him very tough questions and really undermining the bill and saying things that were not true on the House floor about the bill. So I think Philip realized this was happening. He answered the questions, stepped down, and then the bill failed. It only got roughly 50 votes or 51 votes. Republicans, just to set the stage, never fell on the House floor. So this was, kind of this happens like once a year. Philip's bill fails, and even one of the co-sponsors voted against the bill.
So this is where I really wanted to talk to you about is the being on the outs with the speaker.
Yeah. So Philip has won 2 elections down. Philip's out of the Noonan area. He's actually won 2 elections. He beat, when he was running both times, he beat Marcy Westmoreland Sackerson. So if you recognize her middle name, her dad used to be a congressman and was over the 3rd District, Georgia Department of Transportation also. Very politically connected. The speaker both times donated lots of money to Miss Sackerson, got all his people to donate money, and really was against Philip. Philip has been very, very gracious throughout the years. He's never directly attacked the speaker, but Philip is one of the liberty-minded legislators. Philip introduced Save Girls Sports this year. Philip is a co-sponsor on constitutional carry, or either the main sponsor. Philip is a great guy at the House. We need 180 Philips in the House, but the speaker doesn't like him. So, what it looked like is the speaker getting Philip to present his bill on the floor, and then having his insiders kill that bill to, have vengeance on Philip. That's the only thing anybody can think of, because this bill just sailed through all the committees. And bills don't just make it to the House floor, right? The speaker has to agree that this is a good bill before it comes to the House floor. So I was watching it when it happened. I was actually very upset about it, because Philip and his wife, Julia, are both super people. A representative shouldn't be treated this way. And it just shows how petty and how vindictive Speaker Ralston is.
Well, I don't care about Singleton personally. Obviously, they're good people, whatever. It's not that. It is the abuse of power that we have with our speaker. I think it was Newt Gingrich was asked, this is back in the 90s, about running for president. And he says, why would I want to step down?
Yeah, the Speaker of the House is in my opinion, the Speaker is the most powerful guy in Atlanta. I think he has more power than the governor and lieutenant governor. And once the Speaker's been up there for quite a few years, I think it's 12 or 14 years as Speaker now. So he has gathered up all this political power over the years. And he actually is truly the final decision maker on everything at the Capitol. I like how Florida does it. Florida makes a speaker. They have term limits for the speaker. So every 2 years, there's a new speaker that comes in. And I think that's a good system. The speaker doesn't have to, he can still be an elected official, but you've got to step down from that speaker role. It just becomes so powerful that you see things like this happening, that it's retribution to members he doesn't like. The speaker came after me personally in my district. He's become so powerful that you see things like this happen to a representative.
Well, and here's the thing is, I don't care if he doesn't like you personally. He punishes your district. He will pull funding from your district. He will, if you passed a law that said Tuesday is Tuesday, he'll kill it, because your name's on it.
So the good representatives at the Capitol, the good ones that are not in his favor, when they have good bills, they have to give that bill to another representative that is in his good graces. So that's the
well, that's you. That's
Kevin Cook was the same way. Kevin worked. Yeah, Kevin Cook worked that way. So he would give his bills to other members to pass.
Well, you guys are the reason that they cannot pass a law saying constitutional carry. They have to call it something else. That because your name, because you sponsored constitutional carry, it's dead. So the speaker hates you guys so much that anything that you even were associated with 2 years ago is dead.
Yes.
He's a petty, pudgy bastard. And I say that as a petty, pudgy bastard. So this is inner old fat guy violence here. He just...
Well, listen, and one of the worst things up there is his son is a lobbyist that stands outside of his office on a daily basis. If you remember, I think 3 years ago, the speaker held session in late on sine die, which is day 40. You're supposed to be out by midnight. He holds the House over past midnight to pass a bill that his son was the lobbyist on. That's where we are in the Georgia House with Speaker Ralston. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. But on top of that, then he's given political favors to lobbyists that are at the Capitol, which is just it's everything that's wrong with government.
Crooked. He's crooked.
It is 100%.
I mean, I make a lot of jokes about lawyers, but he is the personification of every dirty lawyer joke. Hey, look, my lawyer, I love my lawyer friends. They're good guys. On this show, Catherine Bernard came on before I was hosting. She's, well, first of all, super, super, super smart, but really good. But he is the personification of everything that's wrong in the legal profession. And everything is wrong with legislators. You know, when we say dirty politics, David Ralston. Just
yes, he is the poster child for dirty politics. And on Phillips' bill, I heard the next day I have quite a few friends at the Capitol, and I got quite a few phone calls from Republicans and Democrats that were really upset at what happened, because it's never good to put a bill on the House floor and then to do what he did to a representative. That just doesn't happen. And people were embarrassed by it, honestly. People were ashamed at what the House became at that point in time.
Would you go into a little of the internal politics? Like I'm fairly sideways with, and these are my friends, Martin Mumtahan and Joseph Gullett, for not voting. But I'm guessing that they wanted to vote for the bill, but they didn't because they don't want Ralston killing any bill they put forward.
Yes, I mean, Speaker Ralston and the people that work for him, they watch how every representative votes on bills like this. And if you make the wrong bill, you quickly become on the outs with the speaker. So every vote that you take is looked at by the speaker and the speaker's crew. And it's terrible that it works that way, right? And that's what happens to new representatives when they come to the Capitol, is you quickly realize that if you ever want to, quote, get anything done, you have to do exactly what the speaker wants. Well, it's a shame that that's how the process works.
Well, until you have enough clout, because Gravely voted for the bill. But I think
yes,
Gravely
the House leadership voted for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Gravely has the clout to where Ralston's not going to mess with him. But we have two guys who are in their second term. They're like, man, I can't vote against the speaker.
Yep.
Because one of the bills that passed that I want to advance.
Yep, exactly. And one thing to watch for over the next 12 days in the Georgia House is the Senate has already passed a bill for conference or for committee PACs. I don't know if you've seen this. They tried to pass this the last 2 years, and the conservative crew at the Capitol had enough votes along with the Democrats to kill this legislation for 2 years in a row. If this passes the House and Governor Kemp signs it into law, it allows Speaker Ralston to create a PAC that he controls himself, that can take unlimited donations into with no reporting. So it will allow the governor, the lieutenant governor, the speaker, and a couple other roles to create leadership PACs, and he'll be able to raise unlimited amounts of money into this PAC. And what he'll do with that money is punish people that go against him. We've killed it for 2 years in a row, but I think it's going to probably end up passing this year. And this is a measure Governor Kemp supports. He thinks he has to have a leadership PAC to defeat Stacey Abrams next year. But bills like that, what happens when Stacey Abrams is governor? Then she's going to have a leadership PAC. Or what happens when the Democrats flip the House? Then they'll have leadership PACs. So this is a terrible piece of legislation, but it's something to watch out for coming up.
Well, yeah, an Incumbent Protection Act?
It is 110% an Incumbent Protection Act.
Because that's exactly what Ralston needs, is more power. And look, the people up in Blue Ridge love him. And I don't understand it, other than I think that there's a team sports sort of our guys in charge aspect to it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think most people like their local, they think they like their local representative, whether or not they're good or bad. So that's why it's so tough to get incumbents out.
And look, I like my representative. Like I said, Joseph voted against or did a no vote, but it's one of those things where I have a hard time hammering him on that because I know he's trying. If he were to vote yes on that legislation, anything that he wanted to advance would be dead. And it's
easier
sick
to walk on something like that. Then yes, you're right. It's easier to just take a break or put an E beside your name or vote no on that bill. Yeah, it's a shame. It really is.
And he got hammered out here for not voting to remove Ralston. And, I went out there and said, look, if you're gonna coup, you have to make sure that you win, or else nothing you want to do in the future will go. If just like you did, you co-sponsored the legislation to remove him as speaker, right?
I did. I was one of the 10 co-sponsors, and I will remember the week before that I had quite a few dinners with representatives and a couple lobbyist dinners talking about legislation that we were going to introduce. And as soon as I signed on to that legislation, I haven't been in a lobbyist dinner since that day. So it's
so no more dinners at Chops.
Nope. Yeah, no more dinners at Chops. So what happens when you go against the speaker is it's not that the speaker has to tell everybody that you're not important anymore. Just everybody knows at the Capitol. So all the lobbyists shun you. All the any type bill is dead on arrival. If you go against him, everything is done. So it's disappointing, but you're right. I mean, I would love to see a lot of representatives stand up and say enough is enough, but I also understand what they're up against, and they do want to help their districts, and helping their districts means staying in the good graces of Speaker Ralston.
Yeah, absolutely sick. But Ken, we are at risk of running long. So what did you think of your appearance on the show?
Oh, Dave, I had a great time today. Thanks for having me on. I could talk about this all day.
Yeah, and we certainly appreciate it. To have somebody who has intimate knowledge of the inner workings of the Gold Dome. Getting on to closing thoughts, Jessica, because she can't speak, would like me to remind everyone to beware of vehicle bills now, which is where they take one that's past one chamber, gut it, and put something completely different in. Ken, did you have any closing thoughts?
No, I'd just like to tell people that are listening, keep in touch with your representatives and senators. It means a lot to us when you call us or send us an email. It truly does. So, final thoughts, that a lot of good bills are passed in Georgia, so don't mistake my words for everything is bad at the Capitol. But the more people that can talk with members, the better it will become. They need people continually staying in touch with them. So thank you again for being on here, and I'll look forward to doing it again.
Absolutely. We want to have you back. I want to remind everybody to like and share us. If you like what you heard, send a positive review. If you don't like what you heard, don't send a review. So for our guest, Ken Pullin, for our editor, Eric Cumby, for our voiceless Jessica Salaji, I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.